Lepo pozdravljeni na 4. mednarodnem velnes kongresu, ki ga letos izvajamo v spletni obliki. Namen kongresa je predstaviti Kneippove terapevtske pristope skozi perspektivo številnih strokovnjakov, ki povezujejo 5 stebrov zdravja in dobrega počutja. Navdušeni smo, da ste se udeležili v tako izvrstnem številu in izbrani družbi. Organizatorji smo Višja strokovna šola za kozmetiko in velnes iz Ljubljane, Velnes akademija ter partnerji, ki promoviramo Kneippove terapije, naravne, neinvazivne in mednarodno priznane metode, ki pomagajo preprečevati bolezni, izboljšujejo cirkulacijo, krepijo imunski sistem in uravnavajo živčni sistem. Kongres tematsko sovpada z nacionalno kampanjo Tedni vseživljenjskega učenja, ki spodbuja izobraževanje in osebni razvoj vseh generacij, ter poteka pod okriljem Andragoškega centra Slovenije. Na kratko, TVU letos vključuje približno 2000 organizatorjev brezplačnih dogodkov po vsej Sloveniji, namenjenih spodbujanju vseživljenjskega učenja v lokalnih skupnostih. Aktivnosti so na voljo vsako leto v maju ter vse do 15. junija. Koledar dogajanja lahko spremljate na spletni strani tvu.acs.si. Naša šola je koordinatorka programov zdravja, lepote, dobrega počutja ter zdravega življenjskega sloga in smo pripravili številne aktivnosti, ki pa so na voljo na naši spletni strani vskv.si/tvu. Dostop najdete tudi v mnogih spletne strani šole vskv.si. Z vami bom kot povezovalka današnjega dne Marija Komatar, predavateljica, raziskovalka in svetovalka, ki delujem na stičišču nevroznanosti in celostnih pristopov k zdravemu življenju. Moje delo temelji na interdisciplinarnosti, ki združuje znanstveno dognanje iz naravoslovja, ekonomije, psihoanalize, parfumeristike in človeške izkušnje s ciljem razvijati učinkovite in trajnostne rešitve za dobro počutje ter optimalno delovanje posameznika. Namig o moji temi, ko jo bom predstavila malo kasneje, je Kneippova misel. Uravnotežena prehrana je ključ do zdravja in dobrega počutja. In to tudi zares verjamem. Na spletni strani Velnes kongresa smo s sodelujočimi strokovnjaki pripravili vrsto vprašanj, na katero bomo odgovorili tekom današnjega dne. Vabljeni ste, da nam svoje vprašanje zastavite preko elektronske pošte info@vskv.si ali preko kontaktnega obrazca na velneskongres.si. Zbrano vprašanje bomo posredovali govorcem, vam na njih osebno odgovorili. Najbolj zanimivo vprašanje, ki bi zanimali tudi druge in pobude, bomo objavili na spletni strani kongresa, da bodo dostopne vsem nam. Kongres temelji na 5 Kneipovih stebrih zdravja: voda, gibanje, prehrana, zdravilne rastline in ravnovesje. Posvetili se bomo vsakemu stebru posebej in predstavili številne strokovne poglede za lažje, boljše in bolj zdravo življenje. Pripravili smo tudi nekaj pomembnih informacij tekom dneva, zato vas vabimo, da nam prisluhnete in uživate v Kneipovem potovanju skoraj do 17. ure. Celoten program je na voljo na www.velneskongres.si, kjer lahko spremljate urnik in izberete vsebine, ki vas še posebej zanimajo. Dan bomo izvedli s 3 interaktivnimi odmori s programom za sprostitev, umiritev in tudi nekaj gibanja. Veselimo se vaše družbe, sodelovanja in tudi odzivov. Naslov letošnjega kongresa je Učinkovitost Kneippovih naravnih metod. Star slovenski pregovor, bolje preprečiti kot lečiti, poudarja, da je skrb za zdravje najpomembnejša dolgoročna naložba. V zadnjih letih je zdravje postalo še bolj dragoceno, saj močno vpliva na kakovost življenja in osebno zadovoljstvo. Pomembni so zdrava prehrana, gibanje, vode, zdravilne rastline in uravnotežen življenjski slog, ki jih v sodobnem svetu pogosto vse prej kot lahko vzdrževati. Kneipp je zapisal: življenje v harmoniji s 5 stebri zdravja prinaša notranji mir. K uvodnemu pozdravu vabim Matevža Frangeža, sekretarja na Ministrstvu za gospodarstvo, turizem in šport. Kot pomemben predstavnik državne uprave ima ključno vlogo pri oblikovanju in izvajanju gospodarske politike, ki spodbuja trajnostni razvoj, inovacije ter konkurenčnost slovenskega gospodarstva.
Spoštovane in spoštovani, dobrodošli na četrtem velnes kongresu. Veseli me, da tudi v iskanju naravnih poti zdravljenja Slovenija išče svoje priložnosti za razvoj svojega butičnega turizma. Naša povezanost z naravo, ljubezen do naravnih lepot in dobrot ter naravnih pristopov se lahko pokaže tudi kot priložnost za razvoj našega turizma. V tem pogledu pozdravljamo ta kongres v imenu Ministrstva za gospodarstvo, turizem in šport, da na temelju Kneippovih poti in Kneippovih sledi Slovenija prepozna to priložnost in da boste udeleženke in udeleženci tudi s pomočjo četrtega velnes kongresa našli dober način, kako te danosti in te pristope preliti tudi v odlične poslovne priložnosti za prepoznavanje Slovenije kot izjemne, čudovite in lepe destinacije, ki želi graditi na butičnih prednostih za posebne goste, ki znajo ceniti ta poseben miks darov, ki jih Slovenija ima. Dobrodošli in želim vam zelo, zelo dober posvet.
Kneipp je rekel: zdravje je življenje v polnosti. Z veseljem smo povabili Mateja Slaparja, župana občine Kamnik in zaveznika Kneipp zveze. Kot dolgoletni podpornik Kneippove filozofije celostnega zdravja ter trajnostnega razvoja aktivno podpira uresničevanje lokalnih ciljev, ki so usmerjeni v izboljšanje kakovosti življenja, spodbujanje zdravja in ohranjanje naravnega okolja.
Spoštovane udeleženke in udeleženci kongresa, lepo pozdravljeni tudi z moje strani. Nahajam se v Tokiu, kjer smo se z državno delegacijo udeležili sejma Expo in naj vam povem, da imajo tukaj podobne izzive kot pri nas, samo v malo večjem obsegu. Zato sem še toliko bolj vesel, da ste na kongresu začeli resno razpravljati o tem, da ponovno obudimo metodo Kneippa, torej Sebastian Kneipp je, njegova metoda je poznana že več kot 150 let in je danes najbrž bolj aktualna kot kadarkoli v zgodovini, kajti njegov način razmišljanja, njegovih 5 stebrov so pomembni pri današnjem vsakodnevnem hitrem tempu življenja, ne samo za turiste, ki nas obiskujejo, ampak predvsem tudi za nas, ki tukaj živimo. In njegova filozofija bo pomembno prispevala tudi v prihodnje k temu, da bomo se ustavili, da se bomo osredotočili na tisto, kar je pomembno, da bomo začeli se spet vračati nazaj k koreninam in dejansko je Sebastian Kneipp to poudaril, torej z njegovimi 5 stebri. V Kamniku je bil Kneipp prisoten že v zgodovini, torej v času Prašnikarja, torej 1890 in v začetku 20. stoletja, torej njegov duh je tukaj prisoten in vesel sem, da se dejansko v novem hotelu v Termah Snovik z novim razvojem dejansko ta zgodba zopet obuja in še bolj vesel pa pobude, da se zveza Kneippa ustanovi prav v Kamniku. Torej, lepe pozdrave, iskrene čestitke za vse, kar sestavljate in vse dobro iz Tokija.
Sebastian Kneipp je zgodaj v svojem življenju odkril, da je zdravje naša največja vrednota. To velja za vsakega človeka. Po zdravu iz mednarodnega Kneipp okolja vabi magistra Georga Jillicha, predsednika avstrijskega Kneipp Bunda in predsednika Kneipp Worldwide. V tej pomembni vlogi je ključni nosilec razvoja in koordinacije Kneippovega gibanja na mednarodni ravni ter povezuje številne nacionalne organizacije, ki sledijo filozofiji celostnega zdravja. Avstrijski Kneipp Bund s približno 50.000 člani je ena največjih in najpomembnejših Kneippovih organizacij na svetu, ki pomembno prispeva k širjenju te filozofije.
Dear Kneipp friends, my name is Georg Jillich and I represent the International Kneipp Association Kneipp Worldwide as Vice President and the Austrian Kneipp Association as President. And it's a great pleasure for me to welcome you to this year's Wellness Congress. Our theme this year, the effects of Kneipp's natural methods for human health, past, present and future, invites us to reflect on the timeless power of nature in supporting our well-being. Sebastian Kneipp developed his holistic approach more than 150 years ago, based on the 5 pillars: water, plants, exercise, nutrition, and inner balance. What was revolutionary in his time is now more than ever relevant. In an age where preventive health and sustainable living are the heart of our challenges. At this Congress, we will explore how Kneipp's methods have evolved, how science supports them today, and how they can shape the future of health and wellness. I wish you an inspiring and insightful Congress. Stay healthy and enjoy. Bye-bye.
Kneipp pravi, zdravje ni vse, to da brez zdravja ni nič. Franska Čuk je strokovnjakinja in predavateljica s 25-letnimi izkušnjami na tekstilni katedri Fakultete za strojništvo v Mariboru. Kot predstavnica Slovenije v mednarodni zvezi Kneipp Worldwide, katere članica je že več kot 30 let, aktivno prispeva k širjenju Kneippovega nauka. Prevaja in objavlja članke o 5 stebrih zdravja, vodi delavnice, predavanja in tematske izlete po različnih slovenskih društvih ter nastopa v radijskih oddajah, kjer osvetljuje aktualne teme povezane s Kneippovo filozofijo in naturopatijo. Sodelovala je pri postavitvi Kneippovega vrta v Izoli, vsako leto predstavi Kneippov moto. Redno sodeluje na mednarodni konferenci Kneipp Worldwide in prinaša nove poglede ter znanja v slovenski prostor.
Organizacija Kneipp Worldwide je zveza, ki že več kot 6 desetletij združuje vse, ki skrbijo za zdravje po naravnih metodah. Res je skrb za zdravje osebna, ampak najbolje se udejanju v skupnosti, ki pozna Kneippove principe zdravega življenja in širi vedenje o tem. Zato so osnovni cilji Kneipp Worldwide: posredovanje Kneippovega nauka, podpora pri formiranju prostovoljnih dejavnosti, sodelovanje v projektih, kontakt z enako mislečimi, mednarodna srečanja in še veliko več. Bavarski duhovnik Sebastian Kneipp je bil poznan po celi Evropi že v drugi polovici 19. stoletja zaradi uspešnih metod naravi približanega zdravljenja. Uporabil je zeliščarsko znanje svoje mame, ga nadgradil s proučevanjem starih vedenj in tudi sam potrdil neznansko moč vode. Čeprav je v začetku uradna medicina nasprotovala, se je pokazalo, da Kneippove terapije na 5 stebrih: voda, zelišča, prehrana, gibanje in življenjski red lahko zdravijo, lajšajo težave in krepijo organizem. Njegova globoka misel je bila ne zdraviti bolezni, ampak človeka, ki je zbolel. Sebastian Kneipp se je rodil 17. maja 1821 na Bavarskem. V času šolanja se je prepričal o zdravilnosti vode, ko si je resno bolezen pomagal pozdraviti sam. Kot duhovnik je svojim faranom pomagal z uporabo zelišč in vode ter nasveti o zdravi prehrani. Uradna medicina temu ni bila naklonjena in cerkvene oblasti so ga kar nekako po kazni premestile iz prve fare v Bad Verishofen. Toda bolniki so prihajali za njim in vedno več je bilo tistih, ki so cenili naravne principe zdravljenja. Ob neposrednem delu z bolniki je Kneipp predaval, pisal knjige, članke o dognanjih naravnega zdravilstva in postal je znan po vsem svetu. Leta 1886 je napisal knjigo Moje vodne terapije, kjer je predstavil celostno podobo uporabe vode. Leta 1889 pa je napisal knjigo Tako bi morali živeti, kjer je razlagal pomen posameznega stebra svojega nauka in uspešno povezanost samo vseh 5 stebrov, torej vode, zelišč, prehrane, gibanja in življenjskega reda. 1894 je v knjigi Moja oporoka poudaril, da naj po njegovem nauku svetujejo in si medsebojno pomagajo vsi, ki to znanje osvojijo. Vedno pa je treba upoštevati povezanost res vseh 5 stebrov. Leta 1891 so zdravniki že potrdili pomembnost naravnega zdravilstva in Kneippovo delovanje je postajalo vedno bolj razširjeno in posamezniki so se združevali pri njem in so ustanovili prvo Kneippovo društvo. Pomen in uspeh naravnega zdravilstva je povezovalo vedno več ljudi v društva, zdravilišča so uporabljala Kneippove metode, tudi v turistični ponudbi je bilo vedno več Kneippovih terapij. Vsi ti so sledili Kneippovemu nauku in leta 1962 so v Lindau ob Bodenskem jezeru zbrali Nemška Kneippova zveza, Švicarska zveza, Zbornica Kneippovih terapevtov in zdravnikov, Kneippovi hoteli in izobraževalne organizacije, ki jih je bilo med tem že kar nekaj. Ustanovili so zvezo pod imenom Internationale Konfederation der Kneipp-Bewegung. Posamične zveze ali društva sicer ostajajo po domačih deželah samostojna in imajo svoje delo, jih pa združuje glavni princip v Kneipp Worldwide. Ob 20 velikih zvezah so lahko člani tudi posamezna društva ali celo posamezniki, samo da izvajajo Kneippove terapije ali širijo vedenje o njih. Vključevanje članov in novih članic odloča predsedstvo Kneipp Worldwide, ki ga za 4-letno obdobje imenujejo na srečanju predstavnikov, temu rečejo Mitgliedsversammlung. Delovanje vodi generalna pisarna od leta 1976 v Bad Werishofenu in od leta 2020 dodatna izpostava v Berlinu, ki skrbi v glavnem za zdravje in zdravljenje, medtem ko prva, se pravi tista iz Bad Werishofena, bolj kot ne ureja in pripravlja delovanje po društvih. Zveza se povezuje z WHO in drugimi organizacijami, ki skrbijo za zdravje, bdi nad vrtci, šolami, domovi za starejše in ima bogato založniško dejavnost. Težišče dela je na usklajevanju izobraževanja in potrjevanja Kneippovega nauka v preventivi in skrbi za zdravje ter zdravljenje. Zato se organizirajo čezmejna posvetovanja in srečanja, da bi se vedenje čim bolj širilo. Poseben poudarek delovanju po društvih ima vsako drugo leto srečanje ICAT, to je Internationale Kneipp Aktionstage, oziroma Kneipijade, kot jim tudi pravijo. Ta že od leta 2001 združuje člane res iz vsega sveta. Tam s predavanji, družabnimi dogodki, tekmovanji, izleti in ponudbo Kneippovih pripravkov povežejo množico obiskovalcev. Osnovni cilj Kneippovega nauka je zdravje. Se pa to dosega po dveh poteh. Pri akutnih ali kroničnih težavah klasične terapije vzpostavijo v telesu blažitev in samozdravljenje, to je pod nadzorom zdravnikov in ob sodelovanju terapevtov. Po drugi strani pa Kneipp ponuja metode, da zdravi ljudje taki ostanejo ali še izboljšajo svoje počutje. Terapije zmanjšujejo težave, metode pa dobro počutje skrepijo telo, dušo in duha. Zato ni pomembno, kje se srečamo s Kneippom, samo da se ne odrečemo dejavnosti, kar lahko počnemo tudi doma. Več pa je od tega seveda, če se povežemo v društva in delujemo skladno z ne predpisi, ampak navodili. Čeprav svet pozna Kneippa po uporabi vode, to še zdaleč ni vse. Se v njegovem nauku sobiva 5 elementov. Ob vodi gibanje in šport, sveža zdrava prehrana, zelišča v kuhinji kot čaji, ovitki ali kopeli, posebej pa še življenjski red, ki vse te združuje. Za poenoteno delovanje Mednarodna zveza vsako leto predpiše neki moto, ki mu se posebej posvetijo z delom po društvih. Tako so že bili tišina, izvor moči, vedeti, kako do zdravja, iz tradicije v prihodnost in še veliko. Lanski moto Kneipp povezuje, torej Kneipp vereint, pa velja še letos. Ta je zanimiv ob nemškem napisu, ker prvi del Kneipp verein pomeni Kneippovo društvo, če mu damo pa še t, pa pomeni Kneipp združuje. In kaj združuje in povezuje Kneipp? V društva se vključujejo mladi, starejši, zdravi, bolani, bogati, revni, skratka ljudi iz različnih dežel, iz različnih krajev in vseh ver ali verstev, nič ni določeno, samo da delujejo po vseh 5 stebrih Kneippovega nauka, da to upoštevajo in se ga držijo. Tradicionalna znanja in terapije se povezujejo z novimi metodami. Že Kneipp je gledal na človeka celostno, znanost pa zdaj njegov nauk samo še potrjuje in nadgrajuje. V Sloveniji so Kneippa poznali že v njegovem času in sam je baje priporočal zdravljenje v Kurhausu v Kamniku, kjer so leta 1891, ko je tja bila pripeljana železnica, uvedli v kopališču knajpanje. So pa zdravilci in tudi zdravniki delovali v dolini pri Trstu in v Bistrico pri Rušah, vendar tam ne ravno dolgo. Kar hitro so bile v slovenščino prevedene vse Kneippove knjige. Večina metod je bila tako poznana tudi pri nas. Z vojnami se je nekako izgubilo organiziranje uporabljano Kneippovih terapij, toda nekatere enostavnejše so živele tako v zdraviliščih, kopališčih, zlasti pa po domovih. Že več kot pred 30 leti se je v Mariboru ustanovilo Kneippovo društvo in se hitro povezalo s Kneipp Worldwide. Leta 2013 so namreč v Mariboru organizirali mednarodno srečanje IKAT, torej Internationale Kneipaktionstage, in Kneippovci od blizu in daleč so spoznali najstarejšo trto na svetu, Pohorje in mestni park. Sledilo je še društvo na Vrhniki, kjer so poiskali po Sloveniji točke, kjer se kdo ukvarja s Kneippovimi terapijami in našli so jih celo 20, vendar nobena ni bila popolna. Največ so za zdaj naredili v Snoviku, kjer že ob bogati ponudbi zidajo prvi Kneippov hotel.
Krepitev odgovornosti je najboljša zaščita pred boleznimi. Tako pravi Sebastian Kneipp. K temu bo marsikaj dodal dr. Koplin, ki je zdravnik naturopatske medicine z več kot 15-letnimi izkušnjami na področju integrativne fizikalne in rehabilitacijske medicine ter integrativne onkologije. Je predstavnik Severne Amerike pri Mednarodni zvezi za medicino, hidrologijo in klimatologijo ter strokovni direktor The Spring Resorta v Koloradu in Moria Hot Spring Resorta v Kaliforniji, kjer razvija programe uporabe termalnih vrelcev za zdravje. Kot predavatelj in avtor spodbuja ponovno vključevanje zdravilišč v sodobno zdravstveno varstvo.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this amazing congress. I wish I could be there in person, but I look forward to a future time where I can come to visit and meet everybody face to face. But I also thank you because this is an opportunity for me to speak about someone who's been very influential in my life and someone who I have a great deal of regard for, and that, of course, is Father Sebastian Kneipp. So let me just share my slides here and we can talk a little bit more about Father Kneipp. So, Father Sebastian Kneipp, we'll talk about his history, but really what I want to focus on in this presentation is the system of Kneipp therapy as it evolved into North America in the late 19th century, throughout the 20th century, and into today. My name is Dr. Marcus Coplin. I'm a naturopathic medical doctor, and I'm the president for the Balneology Association of North America. I'm also the North American representative for ISMH and Femtech, and the chair for the Global Wellness Institute Geothermal Initiative. I also teach Kneipp therapy to medical students and doctors who are looking to incorporate a new skill set into their treatment armamentum. I've spent a lot of time reading Kneipp, studying Kneipp, learning Kneipp, and there's a lot that we have put down that we can again take back up as we think about how to advance therapies both in medical and in spa settings. So a little history on Father Kneipp. He was born in 1821 in Germany. From a young age, he really wanted to become a priest. That was his big calling in life. But illness, he had tuberculosis, and it prevented him from joining. He was not allowed to join theological seminary. Um, at that time, he found a book on water cure methods, methods that had been inspired by Vincent Priesnitz, who was another Austrian Silesian water cure lay therapist at the time. And Father Kneipp began basically experimenting on himself. He would take cold water dips into the river at night in the Danube, and he would walk home in a dressing gown soaking wet with cold water until his body could warm it up. They were very extreme treatments, but nonetheless, he credited them with his recovery from tuberculosis. And in 1852, he was ordained as a Catholic priest. Now, he began serving in communities and in parishes that were very low income. The people were workers and peasants, that they had very little access to medical care. And so he utilized the water cure that he had used on himself, along with some folk remedies he had learned from his own mother, such as like herbalism, and also just things he observed in nature, the rhythms of nature, and he grouped them together into a set of treatments that, as he saw it, he couldn't help but deliver to people because he saw suffering and wanted to help. And so the Kneipp cure was a much more gentle approach to cold water therapy. He would still use cold water, but in shorter durations and on less skin than kind of what classic cold water therapy had been previous to him. He wrote a book called My Water Cure and a couple other books, but My Water Cure was the most famous of his books. And it detailed his methods and kind of his philosophy behind water cure and Kneipp cure in general. He died in 1897, and arguably at the time of his death, he was one of the most famous names in the world. The New York Times wrote an obituary on him that was very, very speaking highly of him and his renown. Now, Kneipp Water Cure is specifically a system of baths and washes and streaming waters that he would use depending on the need that he perceived in the sick people that were visiting him. So, effusions are the pouring of water onto cold water always, but onto different parts of the body. You could either use a hose or a pouring device like a watering can. He became very famous for using the watering can to wash the kidneys, wash the knee, wash the elbows. Baths were also something that he would use often, and sometimes hot herbal baths, sometimes very short cold immersions. Before Wim Hof and cold water bathing was popular, there was Father Kneipp. Now, treading water is another very popular, perhaps the most enduring of the Kneipp therapies. This is one that you still see in spas and wellness centers all around Europe and in North America. The wraps and compresses are perhaps the ones I'm the most connected to, as we'll see later. They're the ones that evolved into the kind of modern naturopathic hydrotherapy treatments. Washings were just quick washes of the different body parts for kind of a more stimulating but short-lived effect. And then, of course, steaming and packing were ways of kind of actually inducing sweating, and it would be a way to heat the body and pre-warm the body, and there was often followed by a cold application. So again, before the terminology was there, we had Kneipp practicing forms of contrast hydrotherapy and contrast therapy. The stuff that today we have a lot of science to show exactly what's going on. Now, the Kneipp cure, as it became known, involved 5 main elements that really became the essence of what Father Kneipp was known for. Hydrotherapy, of course, is the biggest one, and that's what we just reviewed. But diet was also very important. So again, he would have people coming to Bad Wörishofen, where he was from, and either it started with just local townspeople, but then people from the surrounding areas, and then eventually, all over Germany, all over Europe, all over the world, people were coming to this little town in Germany, in Bavaria, to take these treatments and go through this course of therapy. And they would stay for weeks or sometimes even months, going through the prescriptions that this priest would give them. So hydrotherapy was the one. The diet was really important. Simple, unadulterated food. He has a great passage in My Water Cure about where to catch fish. If you're going to eat trout, what types of stream to pull the trout from, and these types of things, understanding kind of the environment of the food itself being important for the environment of the person eating the food. As I mentioned before, he learned herbal medicine mostly from his mother and how she would treat around the home. And he incorporated a lot of that through teas and baths and herbal baths and things of that nature. Exercise was a major component. He made sure that people were moving, getting out into nature. It's a very famous concept of Father Kneipp is he'd have people wake up in the morning and go walk barefoot through the dewy grass. And, even though that had a hydrotherapy component to it, the other piece of that is that people are moving and using that exercise to rewarm their bodies. And then the fifth component of Kneipp therapy is called inner balance, and it's the one that maybe is the most not obvious what is meant by this. But to my read, it's talking a little bit about the mind-body connection, that mind-body therapy, but it's also talking about biochronicity, meaning if you can go to sleep at the same time every night and set yourself into a rhythm and set that rhythm in the rhythms of nature and emulate those rhythms of nature, that this had a natural healing effect on the body. I think this comes a very important concept when we start talking about modern spas and how we build that into the spa vacation and the wellness vacation. So as Kneipp Cure moved into the West, there's some very important context that led to it becoming very, very popular. But in order to understand that, we need to understand a little bit about what was happening in especially the United States during this time. There was a huge rise of industrialism. So cities, people were moving from the country into the cities, factories were popping up everywhere. But the air quality and the hygiene of these cities was very poor, and there was a lot of disease. And this started a movement towards medical reform. And that increased in popularity the more industrialism increased. And from that, we saw movements such as hygienic medicine, temperance, meaning no alcohol, no tobacco, vegetarianism, botanic medicine, and social reform. These all grew in response to urbanization. And with that urbanization and all the sickness that was coming with this, and a lot of the misery and the vices that came with this, there was a perceived social decline. And so people at that time were very much interested in how we can improve the health of the body, but also improve the health of our society. Water cure treatment centers and sanitariums and hygienic medical schools were popular in the 1800s, the 19th century. Prior to Father Kneipp's work coming to the United States, there were these schools. They were there. They were based largely on priestness popularity, and they were growing. These schools of medicine were couched together as called, and they were called irregulars. So you had your kind of regular school of medicine, which at that time was very focused on mercury treatments and bloodletting and things like this. And you then had the irregulars who were doing more physiologic treatments, so hydrotherapy, botanical medicine, nutrient therapy. The main kind of concept behind the irregular school was that the body, given the right conditions, will heal itself. And so disease was seen as a response that the body was having to the conditions it was in, not the cause of the conditions. This had a major influence from German health culture and water cure, of course. Now, in the late 1800s, a number of Kneipp-style water cure centers existed in North America, and they largely served German-speaking communities. So a lot of, immigrants to the United States who are already familiar with the concepts, they would use and popularize these places. But that popularity began to grow and grow and grow in the United States as Kneipp's popularity grew globally, especially across Europe. And finally, there were English publications of Kneipp books, and that really surged the popularity as more and more people could start to have access. Non-German immigrants started to have access to Kneipp philosophy and methods. Periodicals began to be published purporting to the methods and the effects and how to do things, and it kept growing and growing and growing. Detractors of the Kneipp methods came both from the regulars and the irregular medical groups. They saw Kneipp methods as too folksy, not scientific enough, but the effects that we're having were undeniable, and the popularity that the effects had were undeniable. So people continued to flock to Kneipp centers, and Kneipp popularity continued to grow. Now, medical hydrotherapy leaders, like I said, they were deriding Kneipp as unscientific, and yet there was popularity despite. And this is one of the publications. This is a very famous publication from 1900. It is called the Kneipp Water Cure Monthly. And this was published by a man by the name of Benedict Lust and Ludwig Staden. They were both German immigrants to the United States, and they were the founders of naturopathic medicine. So Kneipp is rebranded. This man on the right here is Benedict Lust, and he was a German immigrant. He had traveled to Bad Wörishofen to take Kneipp cure. And he was actually given orders from Father Kneipp to go to the USA and spread the message farther than just to the German communities. And that's why he founded the Water Cure Monthly. And the methods were very popular, but the magazine actually went a little bit beyond just the scope of Kneipp therapy and really started to create a culture of drugless therapy. So it started to incorporate other methods of non-drug healing methods. And again, that universality of disease, that was core to the philosophy, meaning there was only one disease, and that is ill health. And if you can give the body the conditions for good health, it will overcome the disease. So drugless healing began to expand, and eventually Benedict Lust rebranded Kneipp therapy as naturopathy. And he did this in order to, to kind of break away from the negative connotation that was being spread around Kneipp cure, but also to be able to incorporate other methods into the bigger umbrella term. And he rebranded Kneipp Water Cure as the Naturopath and the Herald of Health. This was the name of the new magazine. And he developed courses to train naturopaths. And they were largely correspondence courses, but he trained men and he trained women, which was not very common at this time. So the naturopathic perfection and some of these other hydrotherapy water cure methods were the first areas in which women were actually practicing medicine in North America. In the early 20th century, there was a major pushback against this movement towards drugless therapy that had become very popular. German lab medicine and bacteriology were becoming very popular, and there was this kind of push to make medicine scientific. And you have the American Medical Association, and they lobbied the government to have much more strict regulations on the practice of medicine and who could practice medicine. There was a report generated, a committee report called the Flexner Report. And this went and reviewed a bunch of medical schools and their practices throughout North America. And with that report, we see the marked closing of many of the medical sect schools. So basically all of the non-conventional schools, botanic medicine, homeopathy, etc. Naturopathic medicine absorbed many of these disciplines into its core. So as these schools were closing, now naturopathy started to incorporate homeopathic therapy, herbal medicines, botanic medicine, osteopathy, chiropractic, physiotherapy, mental therapeutics, and more. So again, with this core of Kneipp, expansion, expansion, expansion. But at the core, that philosophy remained the same. And that's very important. And this, to me, really gets at the hardcore of what Kneipp's philosophy was and why hydrotherapy was so important to him, but also the philosophy that endures within the naturopathic medical profession. I'm going to read it. All these diseases, whatever be their name, have, we maintain, their origin, their root in the blood, or rather in the derangement of the blood. Whether this be owing to irregular or imperfect circulation or else to the presence of poisonous or vicious elements. The network of veins traversing the human frame can be compared to a well-organized system of irrigation. They conduct the sap of life throughout the body and nourish each part, each organ in the manner most suitable to its functions. Perfect order, however, can only lie in the right measure and pace. Whatever is too much or too little in the process of circulation disturbs the equilibrium, the harmony of the whole, and causes dissension in the parts and puts sickness in place of health. I mean, this was so prescient of Father Kneipp, writing this maybe 130 years ago, longer, 150 years ago. And what he was really saying is, that it's circulation and its neurological balance and the autonomic nervous system and how these systems are interplaying with each other that help the body regulate and build stress resiliency. All these terms we have now, at the time he spoke about it in this way. And naturopathy then evolved throughout the 20th century. There were the core concepts, like I mentioned, vitality is what heals the body. And if you remove the conditions of disease, health will flow. If you improve the quality of the circulation of the blood, that's at the core. Naturopathy programs of education became integrated into the remaining chiropractic colleges as an add-on degree. So you could become a chiropractic doctor with an add-on degree as a naturopathic doctor. Primary medical provider status was granted in certain states while others remain unlicensed. And so there was, as throughout the 20th century, more and more states began to recognize the naturopathic licensure as a primary care medical provider. There was a very small practicing profession by the late 1970s, but the rebirth of natural health culture from the 1980s into the early 2000s saw a rise in the numbers of practicing doctors as well as legislative efforts. So now the new postgraduate medical programs were created as more states recognized the naturopathic medical doctor as the primary care provider. And currently there are 8 North American naturopathic medical schools, and licenses to practice are granted in almost half the states within the United States. That's as of today. There's one core person that I would like to mention, and that's Dr. O.G. Carroll. He had a childhood illness that left him severely disabled with arthritis, and he was successfully treated for that at a Kneipp Therapy Center in New Orleans, that was operated by a direct student of Father Kneipp. So after Dr. Carroll became a doctor, he refined the Kneipp treatments to be a little bit more clinically viable. So he called it the constitutional hydrotherapy, the Carroll method of hydrotherapy, which combined modified Kneipp torso packs. So again, those towel wraps with sine wave electrotherapy to specific spinal regions that followed the organ reflex zones. Now, these treatments were shortened from a typical 2 to 4 hour Kneipp wrap into a 45-minute treatment. Now, treatments focused on restoring digestive function and enhancing tissue waste elimination, but this became a very clinically viable system because He could see people in an outpatient setting. They didn't have to come and live at his property for weeks at a time. He could see them over the course of a few months. And it really changed the delivery method of Kneipp-style hydrotherapy. Today, this is an example of a hydrotherapy setup. Carroll method is maybe the most practiced hydrotherapy method in use today. Has made the core of my own practice and what I've used to help patients. And it's something that I've trained doctors in terms of how to create programs of care based around this exact method. Now, in North America today, there are still other remnants of Father Kneipp's legacy, and specifically in Kneipp walks that we see. And there aren't many. It's not as popular as it is in Europe. And most European spas will have some form of Kneipp walk. These are two examples of Kneipp walks that exist in North America. One is in Wyoming, and this upper right-hand corner is at the Murrieta Hot Springs Resort where I work. But let's talk about this therapy. This is perhaps one of the most popular, certainly the most enduring of Kneipp therapies. This is from my water cure, and you see the man in his nice jacket with his pants rolled up in the bathtub. This was an original description of how to do water treading, water walking. This has evolved into the spa treatment we see on the right-hand side, where there's a reflexology stones and alternating temperatures. Initially the prescription was to go for a nice hike in a beautiful alpine meadow and find a nice stream, roll up your pants, and just march through the stream. And so a lot of Kneipp walks are built to mimic this idea of walking in a stream. And I want to talk just briefly about what happens with the Kneipp walk and why it actually is such a powerful therapy. When you understand the physiology behind it, it's actually quite impressive, and it's utilizing the phenomenon of the calf pump, which is a phenomenon that when you move your foot, dorsa and anterflex your foot, and you use the calf muscle to do this, it's actually creating a muscular pump on the venous system, pushing blood upstream against the flow of gravity. And as we can see in the diagram on the right-hand side here, the blood moves from the calves into the legs, into the lower abdomen, the kidneys, and eventually the liver. And so what Father Kneipp recognized is that by doing this treatment with regularity, it was a gentle way to nourish those vital organs and prepare them for digestion, or to help replenish kidney and adrenal glands that had been worn out. And so that has been a really powerful way that these methods get utilized still, is to help rebuild stress resiliency from adrenal overuse of stress fatigue, as well as to help prepare and promote good digestion. But I want to make one point, which I think is really interesting. Most of the Kneipp walks that I've seen around the world, they go up until about the ankle. And there's a reason why I really push people to consider making deeper Kneipp walks. And I think first and foremost, it's because if we think about that original alpine stream, as you walk deeper into the stream, you would get up into that knee position. But secondarily, there's a physiologic reason for what I think is happening and why it's important. So as you can see with the lower photo, when the water is immersed there, when the leg is submerged in the water, even when the leg is relaxing and the blood is filling the veins, you have a compression from the water itself. So as you step the foot down into the cold water, it acts like a light compression to that venous blood. And then when you step up, it's like a secondary pump. So it's actually getting a double pump effect. And that, I think, is what really drives a lot of the benefit that we see there. So the water kind of maintains an ambient pressure, but then the actual stepping is like an additional pressure onto that. So it's a gentle way of stimulating that calf pump more than just stepping in the water or stepping outside of the water, or more than just kind of the cold compression would have on its own. So I think I try to make a case for many spas that incorporate Kneipp walks to try and make their Kneipp walks go to the average person's just below the knee. That allows for that nice stork walking and that deep stepping that allows for the really, I think, the physiologically important function of this therapy. And this is a good example of, a water that's deep enough, and this woman is doing a very good job of stork walking, pulling the leg out of the water, dipping it back into the water at an appropriate depth. And that's what will activate those underlying mechanisms for health promotion. So all in all, I think the lessons we can learn from the movement of Kneipp therapy into the West: water, diet, rest, movement, herbs, and balance. These are the 5 pillars of Father Kneipp, and these are important and things that we can think about incorporating into any wellness program. We want to focus on the regulation of nerve activity and the circulation distribution. So in a program of wellness, whether it's at a spa or a wellness center or just with self-practice, what's the outcome that we're trying to get to? How do we help balance the nerves? How do we help balance the circulation of blood? Because methods will evolve, but as long as we keep the philosophy and the reasoning behind why we do something, we don't just do it because Father Kneipp said so. Many people do. But when you understand the real reason why he said so, now you can really understand why someone like Dr. Carroll was able to get such amazing effects with his hydrotherapy. He changed the therapy, but not the rationale, not the reason. So now when we understand these different elements of Kneipp therapy beyond just the water therapy, it gives us opportunities to sequence guest offerings. Again, whether that's at a spa, a wellness center, or a wellness retreat resort, if you can create multiple experiences that guide guests through the sequencing of these different elements, you're really setting yourself up for a strong outcome. So understanding that rationale is what makes for the enhanced programming. If you understand why you're doing something and why that programming is there, and the guests understand why they want to do that because it's part of a bigger program, then you get really good effect and really good outcomes, and you have really happy guests. So that's it from me. I just want to say a sincere thank you, and I look forward to more conversations, and always thank you to Father Kneipp for all the information he shared into this world so that I can come here and share with you. So thank you all.
Poslušajte svoje telo, saj vam vedno sporoča, kaj potrebuje. Tako pravi Sebastian Kneipp. Brigitta Ernst, ki od leta 2022 vodi Akademijo Sebastiana Kneippa v Bad Wöriskofenu in ima več kot 20 let izkušenj na področju izobraževanja odraslih. Svojo pot je začela kot novinarka, ki jo je že zgodaj pritegnilo Kneippovo delo. Danes strokovno združuje izkušnje z področja poslovne psihologije, naravne terapije in trajnostne preventive. Je soavtorica knjige, ki bi v prevodu v slovenščino pomenila naravne oziroma na naravi temelječe intervencije, in predavateljica z dolgoletno prakso. V svojem predavanju Kneipp danes med tradicijo in trendi pa bo pokazala, kako so Kneippova načela tudi v današnjem času temelj sodobnega in uravnoteženega življenjskega sloga.
Welcome to this lecture at this special conference where everything revolves around the diverse teaching of Sebastian Kneipp. Thank you for inviting me to talk about this inspiring man and his health principles. Although Kneipp's health system, based on the 5 pillars, is over 150 years old, it is more relevant today than ever before. This may come as a surprise. What can a 19th century priest teach us today? The answer is a lot. Together, we will build a bridge between Sebastian Kneipp's historical insights and the challenges of our time. You can look forward to inspiring perspectives based on science and practical experiences. So after this lecture, you will see that the Kneipp methods of natural treatments is not just a dusty relic, but a treasury of contemporary ideas for health and well-being. Kneipp's legacy lives on thanks to thousands of dedicated people. At the center of it all, it is the Kneipp Bund. Founded in 1897, today it unites around 600 local associations with around 200,000 members, making it to one of the largest non-profit health organizations in Germany. It preserves tradition and shapes the future in many different ways. For example, with the Sebastian Kneipp School for Physiotherapy and Medical Bath Attendants, the Kneipp Academy, and the certification program for daycare centers, schools, retirement homes, health resource, and spas. It supports science, for example, through a professorship at Charité Berlin, and represents natural health in politics and society. In short, the Kneipp Federation is the heart of the movement, bringing Kneipp's ideas in today's world and far beyond Germany's borders. So, a global community is Kneipp Worldwide. It was founded in 1962. Today, Kneipp Worldwide consists in more than 40 countries. Its work focused on congresses, acquisition of members, and last but not least on the Kneippiade, a social event which combines exercise and fun which attracts hundreds of friends every 2 years of the Kneipp movement, as seen this year in April in Allgäu, Südtirol. I'm speaking here today in my role as the head of the Sebastian Kneipp Academy and on behalf of Kneipp Worldwide. The Kneipp Federation includes the Sebastian Kneipp Academy, the educational institution in Bad Wörishofen. Coaches, course instructors, companies, and private motivated peoples are trained to apply the 5 pillars in many areas. The Academy ensures that Kneipp's knowledge is handed down in a sound manner, always in line with the latest scientific findings. It is also develops health programs for specific target groups such as children, senior citizens, and companies. Today, we live really in a paradoxical time. On the one hand, the wellness and health market is booming. Fitness apps, superfood, trends, self-optimization guides are springing up everywhere. On the other hand, many people feel really stressed and overwhelmed. Burnout and chronic exhaustion are almost commonplace. We are overwhelmed with health tips, so much that some people are already experiencing a certain health fatigue. It almost seems as if the more options there are, the more confused many people become. At the same time, there's a growing desire to slow down. Terms such as self-care and digital detox are trending. The world is searching for balance and calm in the middle of the noise. Society has faced enormous health problems before. In the mid-19th century, tuberculosis and poverty were widespread. Many people were chronically ill and had no access to modern medicine. At that time, a young Bavarian priest made an astonishing discovery. In his mid-20s, Sebastian Kneipp fell seriously ill with tuberculosis, at that time a sentence to death. By chance, he came across an old book about the effects of water treatment. In the winter of 1849, he dared to do the unthinkable. He plunged into the ice-cold Danube River only for a few seconds at the time, and his condition improved. Kneipp recovered thanks to cold water. He continued his self-therapy and developed the hydrotherapy based on his findings. Enthusiastically, he began helping other people with water treatment and soon became world famous as the water doctor. But Kneipp quickly realized that water alone cannot cure everything. For true health, your entire lifestyle must be in harmony with nature. So he developed a holistic approach based on 5 pillars. I will discuss each of the 5 elements later with specific practical tips. Today we're experiencing a renaissance of Kneipp's ideas. In 2015, UNESCO even declared Kneipp an immaterial culture heritage, an official confirmation of its significance. In your social media feeds, Kneipp themes are hidden behind other trends and labels, such as Huberman's morning routine, which places great emphasis on a healthy lifestyle, and ice bathing or biohacking, where people try to get the best out of their bodies and minds through a wide variety of training and nutrition methods. Our everyday life has become digital. Our smartphones are constantly ringing. Emails and social media fight for our attention. Many people are noticing how exhausting this constant online state is. So as a counter movement, digital detox has established itself. Many of us find a digital break incredibly beneficial. We sleep better and feel more relaxed. Sebastian Kneipp may not have known about smartphones, but he would certainly have welcomed the digital detox. His advice were to regularly take time to relax, get out into nature, and not let yourself be overwhelmed by sensory overload. This is exactly what the principles of digital detox is all about. Therapeutic fasting, high-intensity training, detox juice. Every month there seems to be a new hype, promising the ultimate solution for our health. No wonder many people lose track and give up in frustration. The health fatigue means that people are tired of trying out new rules and trends that ultimately have no effects. Kneipp's approach is almost liberal, focused on simple, natural measures of miracle cures. His credo was essentially everything in moderation, with no extremes, no expensive states, just consistency. And Kneipp's teaching takes the pressure off and gives us back the confidence that we can do a lot for our health with simple things. Let's look at some specific examples, such as the element water, which is the first pillar. Cold showers, ice bath, and Kneipp hydrotherapy are currently enjoying a revival. This is not only thanks to extreme Iceman celebrities, but because many people feel how good it is for them. Kneipp was the pioneer of this water-based way of toughening up. A cold shower in the morning stimulates the whole body. The circulation awakens the spirits and strengthens the immune system in a long term. Modern studies back this up. Regular cold water treatments can improve blood circulation, lift your mood, and even reduces sick days. What used to be considered quirky, such as wading through a Kneipp basin like a stork, is now back a biohacking trend. Water is a simple but powerful tool for our health that we can eat. Knowledge, herbal medicine is also making a comeback. Our ancestors knew about the effects of X, for example, of chamomilla, thyme, and other herbs, but for a while, pills were seen as a purpose remedy. Now we are coming back to our roots. Lavender has been scientifically proven to help you relax. St. John's wort can lift your mood if you're feeling a bit down. And arnica soothes inflammation. In Germany, over 70% of people regularly takes herbal medicines. So people are once again turning to natural remedies. This is not a counter movement to conventional medicine, but rather a complement to it. Sebastian Kneipp was a pioneer in this field. He used dozens of medicinal herbs in his receipts, from cough herbs to marigold. His motto was, "There's a herb for every disease." Today's studies confirm much of what Kneipp intuitively did right. Herbal medicine is back on vogue, from tea to tincture. Today we know that a lack of exercise makes us ill. Many people sit for hours in the office, in the car, in front of the screen. Sitting is the new smoking, is the provocative slogan. At the same time, the fitness industry is booming, but not everyone likes hardcore workouts in the gym. Kneipp's philosophy offers a pleasant middle ground. Daily exercise it, but without the pressure to perform. A brisk walk, gardening or cycling, the main thing is to do it regularly and in fresh air. Kneipp attached great importance to exercise being enjoyable and fitting into everyday's life rather than being a duty. So modern trends such as 10,000 step programs or gentle sports such as Pilates or Nordic walking basically follow the same idea. The key is to be active, a small amount, but continuously. This keeps the body and mind fit. Few areas are so full of contradiction like nutrition. Every week there's a new theory. Sometimes fat is the enemy. Then it's carbs. Exotic superfoods are hyped, while local fruits is considered boring. Many people are confused. What should I eat? Kneipp would probably have a smile. His advice was very simple. Natural, unprocessed food, plenty of vegetables, enough water. And above all, enjoy everything in good measure. He warned against excess. Even back then, overeating and excessive alcohol consumed were an issue and recommended a versatile, plant-based diet. In principle, the same advice a nutritionist would give you today. It's interesting to note that movements such as clean and slow food are picking to a wholesome, balanced diet. Kneipp's principles are therefore highly relevant again today. The fifth, perhaps most important pillar is inner balance. In our fast-paced world, many people suffer from stress, sleep problems, and mental health, burnout, anxiety, disorders, depression. Kneipp knew that physical health is not possible without mental balance. His order of life meant a regular daily rhythm, time for relaxation, for family, for faith, for meaning, in short, a balanced life. Today, we would call this a work-life balance or a mindful practice. In fact, meditation, yoga, and breathing exercise are blooming as a way to achieve inner peace. The idea behind them is the same like Kneipp. Don't get lost in the daily rat race, or regularly to stay healthy. So what to do in everyday's life? Kneipp was always practical, and many of his methods can be really integrated into everyday's life. Take water. Try espresso in the morning. That's what Kneipp named arm bath. Sit your forearms in cold water for around 15 to 30 seconds. This wakes you up immediately, and it's healthier than a double espresso. In the evening, warmth and herbs help. A warm foot bath with a dash of lavender oil relaxes and prepares you for a restful night's sleep. And as a home remedy for in between, you may be familiar with calf rubs for fever, a damp, cold cloth wrapped around the calves. This tried and tested Kneipp remedy helps to lower high temperature. And herbs are always at hand. We just need to use them. Are very easy to implement when it comes to exercise and balance. How about walking barefoot in the morning grass? This the circulation toughens us up and is an energizer, natural massage for your feet. Build small movements into your day. Take the stairs instead of the elevator. Ride your bike instead of driving. Walk over to your colleagues instead of sending an email. Every step counts. Take a forest bath during lunch break, or go for a walk or in the park without your mobile phone, and take nature in with all your senses. Research shows that just 20 minutes in the countryside can significantly reduce stress hormones. Timeouts like that help us to detoxify digitally and mentally. And don't forget an evening routine. Switch off, for example, your screen 1 hour before going to bed and engage in a relaxing ritual, for example, reading, writing your journal, or doing a breathing exercise. This allows your body and mind to rest. Small habits like that make a big difference when it comes to a routine. So what is the conclusion? Timeless, powerful, and easy to do. Sebastian Kneipp's 19th century health concept offers surprisingly modern answers to today's challenges. From stress and digital overload to nutrition and lifestyle chaos. His health doesn't have to be complicated. It is just a need to be natural, consistent, and a part of your daily life. In Kneipp's own words, those who don't have time for their health will later have the time for their illness. So please take this advice to heart. Make your health a priority with the simple, natural methods you've seen today and the inspiring input still to come. Thank you for your attention. I wish you strength, clarity, and a good health, and hopefully we see us perhaps somehow. Last one.
Zdaj pa bo čas za prvi kratek premor, dolg je le 11 minut, pa vendarle Lahko si privoščimo kakšen kozarec vode ali kakšno osvežilne pijače. Pred mano je en čudovit domači čaj, ki ga bom zaužila, medtem pa bo naša draga Irena Hribar-Rajterič, absolventka programa formalnega usposabljanja za izvajalko gozdnih terapij na Višji šoli za kozmetiko in velnes v Ljubljani, ki naravo doživlja kot prostor umiritve, ravnovesje in notranjega stika. Po osebni izkušnji izgorelosti je svoje znanje poglabljala z izobraževanji iz aromaterapije, čuječnosti ter Kneippove filozofije. Danes bo predstavila, kako lahko z naravnimi pristopi podpiramo dobro počutje ter izvedla kratko vajo za sprostitev in motivacijo. Njeno vodilo je: ko prisluhneš naravi, prisluhneš sebi.
Pozdravljeni, dobrodošli na današnji predstavitvi Jin Shin Jutsu tehnike. To je starodavna japonska praksa energijskega zdravljenja. Sem Irena in danes vam bom pokazala, kako lahko z nekaj zelo preprostimi tehnikami izboljšate svoje fizično in čustveno počutje. Jin Shin Jutsu temelji na principu, da ima vsak del našega telesa svojo energijsko pot. Ko te poti postanejo blokirane, se lahko pojavijo težave. Danes se bomo skupaj naučili, kako s preprostim držanjem prstom in dihanjem lahko vzpostavimo ponovno energijsko ravnovesje v telesu in ga harmoniziramo. Preden pa se lotimo dela s prsti, bomo začeli z dihalno vajo 4, 7, 8, ki bo pripravila naše telo, na nadaljne tehnike. Kaj pomeni 4, 7, 8? Dih traja 4 enote, potem zadržimo dih za 7 enot in izdih podaljšamo na 9 enot. Lahko stojite, lahko sedite. Zdaj pa to kar poskusimo. Jaz vam bom malce pokazala s prsti. Vdihnite skozi nos, izdihnite pa skozi usta. Zdaj vzdihnimo. Vdihnimo. 1. Ponovimo ta cikel še 3-krat skupaj. Mogoče vam prvič za lažje spremljanje štejem, drugič in tretjič pa bomo to ponovili v tišini. Dih. 1, 2, 3, 4. Zadržimo dih. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Izdihnemo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Preden pa preidemo na naše čudovite prste, posamezne, pa bomo aktivirali posebno točko, in sicer se ta točka nahaja na sredini naših dlani. Imenujemo jo center rojstva in pomaga, da se naše celotno telo harmonizira. To točko primemo s palcem in nežno držimo 1 do 2 minuti. Predlagam, da kar poskusite. Seveda bomo zdaj za namene tega videa to držali krajši čas, vam pa res priporočam, da vsak prst ali sredino dlani držite vsaj 2 do 3 minute. Ta tehnika nam pomaga uravnovesiti energijo v celotnem telesu, izboljša cirkulacijo in pripravi naše energijske poti za nadaljnje delo s prsti. Preden se lotimo in vam razložim pomen posameznih prstov, pa intuitivno vzemite dlan in z drugo roko primite en določen prst na tej roki, katerega koli. Vsak prst, smo rekli, ima svoj pomen. Palec je na primer povezan z želodcem, vranico in čustvom tesnobe. Kazalec je povezan z ledvicami, mehurjem in strahom. Sredinec je povezan z jetri, žolčnikom in jezo. Prstanec je povezan s pljuči, debelim črevesjem in žalostjo. Mezinček pa je povezan z našim srčkom, tankim črevesom in perfekcionizmom. Zakaj sem vas prosila, da intuitivno izberete en prst na roki? Intuitivno vaše telo ve, kaj trenutno v tem trenutku najbolj potrebujete za sproščanje. Čustva, ki sem jih navedla, ta čustva se sproščajo. Zdaj pa bomo prišli na glavni del, držanje prstov. Vsak prst držimo vsaj 2 minuti, lahko pa tudi več. Zdaj vam bom demonstrirala tehniko. Pomembno je, da imate roke na predelu srčne čakre, to se pravi tam, kjer je naš srček. Z eno roko lepo ovijte palec, dihajte globoko in sproščeno. Še vedno velja, da za sproščanje je izdih daljši kot vdih. Predstavljajte si, da sproščate tesnobo. Držanje palca pomaga tudi pri prebavi, glavobolih in stresu. Drugi prst, ki ga bomo držali, je kazalec. Primemo ga spet nežno, ne stiskamo preveč in se osredotočimo na dihanje. Ko držimo kazalec, sproščamo strah, negotovnost, pomaga pa tudi pri bolečinah v hrbtu. Pa preidimo na sredinček. Spet pozornost na dihanje. Z nežnim držanjem sredinca pa sproščamo utrujenost, razdražljivost, pomaga nam pa tudi pri migrenah. In pa kot smo rekli, se sprošča tudi naše čustvo jeza. Gremo naprej na prstanec. Pomaga nam pri spuščanju žalosti in dihalnih težavah, zaprtju in žalovanju. Preostane nam še mezinček, ki pa nam pomaga pri težavah, srčnih težavah, srcem, nespečnosti in pretiranih skrbeh. Če hočete povečati učinek za dodatno stimulacijo, pa lahko potem še z prstom pritisnete na konce prstov in tako dodatno stimulirate te naše energijske tokove. Za konec vam predlagam še praktično rutino za vsak dan, ki vam ne bo vzela več kot par minut. Zjutraj začnite z dihalno vajo 4, 7, 9. Aktivirajte točko na sredi dlani in po vrsti po minuto do 2 minuti držite vsak prst. Ne stistekajte preveč, ampak držite nežno. Ko opravite z eno roko, se lotite druge. Za sproščen spanec spet lahko ponovite dihalno tehniko 4, 7, 9 in pa držite palec, dokler ne občutite olajšanja in s tem sproščate tesnobo in boste tudi bolje spali. Da pa vam ni potrebno gledati na uro in se lahko bolje posvetite dihanju in sproščanju in občutkom, lahko pa vsak posamezni prst držite, dokler ne začutite takega trepetajočega občutka. Hvala za vašo pozornost. Ta tehnika pa je predvsem zelo dobrodošla, ker jo lahko izvajamo povsod. V parku, na dežju, na sestanku, saj veste, roke imamo vedno lahko položene na mizi, imamo jih točno v predelu srca in kaj je drugega, kot da se lepo nežno primemo za prst. Lahko držimo posamezni prst, lahko držimo tudi kombinacijo 2 prstov ali več. Hvala.